Hi everyone, I'm Mark,
And I'm Alex.
and this is Final Stop for Final Fantasy Talks. Welcome everyone to our 15th episode here in Final Fantasy IX. We're continuing our playthrough. We just finished Trino, just kind of a little note. We are about, I don't know, this is probably like the ninth episode in the Final Fantasy series, kind of like a playthrough, walkthrough type of deal. So if you're new to this series, we would recommend, I believe it's episode 6 is the first one that we started out with Final Fantasy IX. Recommend going back, checking that out before you kind of continue this, just because, we're going through the story and we're talking about a bunch of stuff like that, and so if you just aren't really that too keen on the info, it might be a little confusing for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because we've been going on Final Fantasy IX for a little while here, so if you're just listening to us now, it might be a little bit confusing, like Mark said, because we're kind of in the middle of the walkthrough on that, or they talking through it. So yeah.
Exactly. We are gonna move on in the story here. We got a couple little wrote down oopsies that we had from last episode. Again, it was Trino, all things Trino. That's all we talked about was Trino. Well, and a tiny, tiny little bit of Dally. So the first thing right off the bat was we said chainmail is the item that reduces wind by 50%. That's not true. It's earth damage for chainmail. Bronze armor is the one that reduces the wind damage. And if
Right.
you kind of remember, this is important because we had that Griffin Monster House enemy that we fought, and he, does a lot of wind damage through arrow and era. And so just kind of correcting ourselves on that. It's not chainmail, it's bronze armor.
Yeah, I think I'm the one that said the chainmail on that. So,
There we
and we
go.
also forgot to talk about there was another thing that we totally didn't have time for, was talking about Quan's dwelling.
Yeah, I also think we we definitely didn't have time for it. I think we also just completely forgot about it.
Yeah, I
Because we
definitely
even,
did.
yeah, we even talked about the open world outside of Trino. You got the friendly encounter. But if you do kind of follow, so outside of Trino, if you follow that forest, kind of takes you up into the mountains a little bit, you'll see kind of like a door, and you go into it. Of course, it's question mark at first, so you don't know what it is. Head into it, and then it says Quan's dwelling. Now, if you did not go into the marsh, then you have no idea who Quan is at this point.
Yeah, there's a little bit of information there because I don't think that Q's Marsh is a requirement for advancing the story, and neither is this place either. But if you do happen to come here and you hadn't had on to Q's Marsh or anything like that, there's a little bit of dialogue in there about Vivi asking about his grandfather
Right.
and all of that kind of stuff. So this would be kind of confusing, but it's a really interesting place. You get a lot of backstory about Vivi on who he is and where he's from, really. So,
You get to find out who this bigot is. And so you go in, right? And it's kind of like just kind of like a cavern, almost is what it looks like.
hmm
Not a whole lot. It's a very small area. There's a couple ethers. Now, here is the big thing, in which, again, some of you who we were talking about the Stalazios last episode, you're probably a little upset that we didn't mention this. So, Scorpio is down here. So, if you actually go
yeah,
through, it's kind of like a little bridge. There's a rope you can climb down. And then near, I think it's an ether in the treasure chest, it's just one of those things you kind of just have to like brush against the wall and kind of write it into the exclamation
yeah,
points. And then boom, you'll
yep.
get Scorpio. So if you did, like me again, miss Cancer, this is your fourth Stelazio, which is really important because then that means that you can get Blood Sword still. And I did,
Yeah,
and oh man, that's the first time I've ever had Blood Sword. Well, at this point at least, I think I steal it off the boss. That's literally like at the end of the game.
pretty
And
much. Yeah,
dude, we talked about this yesterday. It's insane. The
it's
damage
a
goes up
lot.
to about, 5 plus, 500
hmm
that is. And you heal for that. It's just like you literally make Steiner an impossible killing machine. Like
Pretty much.
he can't be killed and he kills everything. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, the only way that it doesn't work, it's happened to me before at certain points in the game, is if you attack an undead enemy, and it really sucks
Ah.
because it heals them and hurts you. So it probably killed them
Okay.
because you were doing like 500 or 600 damage or something like that. It's pretty beast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, one other thing I wanted to note when you were talking about the Stelazio and Quan's dwelling,
Yeah.
So, technically speaking, at this point, since you can go back to Dolly, I believe,
Yes.
then you really can't miss this. Even if you
That's
hadn't, like what you
yeah.
said, the only missable one is Cancer because you can't go to Burmecia at this point.
Correct.
You've got the two in Trino, Taurus and
Oh,
whatever the
Gemini, I
other one
think.
was. Gemini, yeah, you got it. Taurus and Gemini, you've got Aries back at Dolly, and then Scorpio there. So pretty much no matter what, you can get the Blood Sword.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because you can go back to Dally right now. You essentially, if you've missed all of them to this point, it doesn't matter. You can still just go pop in and grab them all real quick and get the Blood Sword. Which, if you're just playing through and having fun, we recommend getting the Blood Sword because
Yeah, definitely
you will
get the
love
Blood
it.
Sword.
Beating that dead horse of the Blood Sword. Anyways, continuing on Quan's dwelling. Another thing down when you're at the bottom is it's another kind of like a hot spring, which is awesome. Fun fact about that is Alex and I were literally just talking about it yesterday. I was playing at the time. It's funny because last episode he mentioned the mandragoras in that forest and the
Yeah.
chestnut ability and how it's very dangerous when they get low. And like literally the first battle I fought them in the mandragora, used chestnut, he was near death and just killed Dagger. And then I Phoenix down her up, killed one, and then I was trying to kill the second one, and then he killed Marcus. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
man, it's
Yeah.
dangerous.
It's just such a weird move too. It's like chestnut, and then they just like throw a chestnut at you, and it does
Yeah.
about 400 damage.
Yeah, it's
I don't
crazy.
get that.
And so if you are fighting them out there and you're really hurting and you can make it to the door and don't push it too much. Just don't worry about wasting any healing things. I mean, just go in there, touch the water, boom. Everyone's completely replenished. And that's kind of it for that first screen. Then and at this point it's just kind of like a cave, it's no big deal. But then you go in into a little bit further and then something kind of, it starts to fill in on what the importance of this place is.
Yeah, it's like a pantry or something. Once you go further, it's just a bunch of empty shelves, a table,
Yeah.
and weirdly enough, there's like a bathtub or something like that with a hatched egg in there. I can't remember exactly where it is, but if you look around the cabinets and things like that, I believe you get a little bit of text, or if you inspect the hatched egg or something, you get some text that says, 6 months since I adopted Vivi, still too small to eat.
Yeah.
And so it kind of gives you that piece of information that yeah, this is where Vivi was quote unquote born and
Yeah.
where he grew up with Quan.
Yeah, and because I mean, just kind of tie it all in up to this point is we know that Vivi had his grandfather. We don't know why he didn't call him dad, but his grandfather, and we know that his name is Quan. We also know that Vivi is just like the Black Mages. I mean, more or less, that were being created in the underground Dali, which are out of eggs, and so we got the hatched egg. We got no, it's pretty much like what you said, man. I think it's kind of to the right of the screen. And Dagger says something like, there's markings on
Yeah.
the wall to like measure height. So Quan was
That's
doing the
right.
whole parent thing of making the little mark, stand up there, making the little mark,
Yeah.
but he's not. It seems like he's not doing the more parental thing of trying to raise it. It's like, when can I eat this? I need it to be a little larger so I can eat. And so that's kind of a little interesting.
But I think what he means is that Vivi's too small to eat.
Well, yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm raising him.
Or-
It's like fattening up a turkey, He's like, oh, can't eat this yet. Gotta let him get a little larger first.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. But
But anyways, yeah, and then if you continue out of that little room, so there's an ether, there's a little ladder that goes up
Yep.
to a shelf. There's a way to get an ether right there, and then if you head out, there's a balcony with a clock,
yes,
and you get some interesting info from the clock, right?
yeah. And so, and this area too. Don't forget this area. This area will tie in at the very end once you get a gold chocobo, or I guess any kind of chocobo. Once you progress the chocobo hot and cold far enough, you will need to come back here. We'll get to that later. But there's that grandfather clock, and yeah, it says something like, it stopped a week ago, and then it's like, that's when I left. So something like that. I'm not remembering it exactly, but basically
Yeah.
that clock stopped at the same time when Dagger and the Tantalus troop left Alexandria. we're kind of seeing these timelines match up, because also we know that Vivi was there as well, with the Tantalus troop. And so that means, first of all, we're only a week into the story, if it even seems that legit, which it's true. And then second, that, what happened during this time?
Yeah, I think it's something like the clock, it stopped about a week before they got to Alexandria or something like that, or they left Alexandria, I think.
Yeah.
And, we were talking about it yesterday, and we'll get into this more as we progress the story, because I believe that's the time in which Vivi heads over to Alexandria. So about a week before the theater, the Tantalus performance and the theater ship and all that kind of stuff. So it's all just backstory to Vivi, his upbringing, where he's from, how he ended up in Alexandria, etc.
Well, yeah, and even how old he is. I mean, we can pretty much speculate that he's not much older than 6 months, which is kind of just crazy to think about. But it's also a lot of this. I mean, the other thing that we talked about yesterday was, as kids, a lot of this was went right over our heads. Just didn't really think about it, didn't really care too much. But now it's very interesting how intertwined it all is, and it just kind of give you little nuggets here and there that kind of, Vivi's the mystery character here. We got no idea at the moment of, anything about him, and so we're kind of just getting a little bit more. So anyways, that's pretty much all there is at Quan's. So now you do need to go into Gargan route to progress, right? We want to get to Alexandria. Doc Tott's like, yo, we'll just use this thing that I made the Keen or whatever fix. And so we're going to go into Gargan route, but first, let's get to Bold Move instead. Alex, why don't you go ahead and start us off for Bold Move?
Alright, so this week's Bold Move, mine is pretty basic, but I still think it was pretty funny. In Final Fantasy X, when Titus, he says this multiple times towards the end, it's just like, this is my story.
I know, right?
It'll be how I want it to go. It's none of you guys' else's story. This is my story, okay?
You keep saying it's your story, but it's my story too, Titus, bold move, man, being so selfish all the time.
He's selfish.
Well,
it's
okay,
only his
hold on. Do we have him to blame, though? Let's be real. In the very beginning, Orin said, "This is your story." So I think he let it go to his head.
Yeah, he did. Throughout the game, it's just like, you know what? This really is my story. Thanks, Orin.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Empowered. He was empowered by Orin. All right, so. Mine is in Final Fantasy XII, and it actually goes out to you. Well, not you, Alex. Well, I mean you, I guess, but any of you, all of us, because it is a very bold move to use magic near entites.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
It's scary too. You gotta be a bold person. You see it out in the distance, you're like, are we far enough away? Let's do it. Use fire, and then it starts coming towards you, casting holy, and you're like, oh god, run.
It's just one of those things where you're like, oh no, gambits, and then you start auto healing with Kira, and the next thing you see in the text box, it's all like, Noma Entite readies Firaga, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, you're trying to exactly. You're fleeing at that point. Right away, hoping at least someone lives.
Yeah, when you see that text, you need to run out of that area quickly because it's an AoE attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can knock you out. Yep. So, those are our bold moves for episode 15. We might be having something new coming your way. We're not exactly getting old. Tired, rather, of bold moves, but we like to switch it up, and I think we're going to start to forget a lot of the stuff. So
that's true.
We'll see what is to come, but let's get to Gargan Rue. So the first thing you see in Gargan Rue, though, is it's Machos, the Moogle. We've waited so long. Atlo's the first one. Now we see Machos or Mochos. I don't really know. You got a letter to turn into him from Nazna, and that's it.
Yep.
It doesn't give you anything new. So now you're down to one now, which is Atla to Mon-Nev. Pretty lackluster there. And as is Gargan Rue, it's a little lackluster. So, Doc Tot, you get down there, and Mr. Knows himself is like, I don't know where things are. And I have it written down here. He's like, you gotta find the lever. I can't remember. It's like, dude, Doc, there are literally two 12-foot sections. Like, that's it. You go to the left, you go get a lever. It's like, it is one screen pretty
It's all
much,
confused.
It's so small. And then you go to the other side, and it's a tiny thing. It's like, this whole area has a square footage of like 100 square feet. Like, how do you not know where this stuff is?
Right. And I just gotta point out too, just in general with Final Fantasy, I always find this really funny with like, Dr. Tot running around. How does he have no encounters? Like he's just walking around with these crawler enemies and stuff that are basically could kill you.
Yeah.
He's just walking around, he's not worried about it.
No, he's not worried about it. You got the dying Burmecia soldier that made that whole entire trek, and he didn't encounter
Yeah.
one enemy to limb him.
They've got no encounters on somehow.
Yeah, and no, and so you alluded to them. The crawler enemies are the only enemy in here, and it almost kind of looks like if you watch the Tremor series movies, it almost kind of looks like them a little bit. They are creepy looking things, and
Freaky.
for the most part, they kind of just attacked me, and it did about 130, so not too alarming, but stronger.
There is another type of enemy though, actually. So you might not have encountered it, but if you go out to where those levers are at, you can get into fights with dragonflies, which aren't
okay.
really all that difficult. Yeah, I think you get the crawlers out there as well, but you can also fight the dragonflies. They can be kind of annoying because they use this attack called Buzz that puts you in berserk, and that's pretty much the special move that they have. So for Steiner and Marcus, that's not a big deal. It kind of sucks for your magic users.
Yeah, but at the same time, in his dagger, and if you have a racket equipped, she's probably doing more damage than Marcus is.
Right.
It's so. Okay, so pretty lackluster enemies in here. I mean, a little bit stronger, so they are increasing a little bit. But other than that, I mean, you seriously, yes, you go to the left, it's like a lever, right? Then you have to go back to the right, and there's like an opening that has a button. Button doesn't do anything yet. You have to first then pull the lever, and then Doc's like, he comes to you. He comes to you in this little tiny section that is measuring like maybe 6.5 feet long. He sits there with his little foot tapping in his hand on his head. Now where was that button? It's like, dude, look to your right. You can throw a rock at it. Like, it is right there.
It literally says feed or something like that. On the
it's
wall.
labeled. It's labeled at that.
Yeah, he's all confused.
Yeah, and he's the one that had this place restored, so you think like he would know. No. This is what we're dealing with, guys. This is the man that's helping us, so let's hope it works out.
This is the guy who's going to save us.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy who can't remember where the switch is. He's standing right next to it. He's all sitting there all confused. Oh, no, where is that switch again?
Where is that? It's like, okay, let me hit it. And then you get to see what the Gargan is, which, I mean, this whole system is quite interesting. I mean, you got this giant bug that carries like a buggy, and it just goes through a giant tunnel. It's so strange.
Yeah, exactly. And just who maintains any of this stuff? The cart that's on there is all nice and clean and stuff. It just walks around with that and everything's fine. You all know that we get into this way too much and we think too logically about this. It's Final Fantasy, but it's just fun to think about.
It is. I mean, that's the fun thing. It's fun to enjoy it for what it is, and we do. But it's also very much fun to get realistic with it because it is so non-realistic, and it's just I mean, because seriously, you're right. The little cart comes and it's like, man, this thing's got a new coat of wax on it. Like, who did this?
It's clean and nicely maintained and everything.
So that's it. Like, you say goodbye to Doc Tot. An interesting thing, I wish I got a screenshot of this. Doc Tot further. Now, Trino in general for Steiner was a pretty big deal. Doc Tot kind of even further planted more seeds of wisdom, shall we say. Baku kind of got the ball rolling. I forget exactly what Steiner said. Doc was like, protector, and he was basically just like, I don't know, if I follow my duty, that's what it is. And then Doc was like, I seriously hope that you don't think that. He's like, at some point, you are going to have to think for yourself to protect the princess.
Yep, it's really the ball is about to drop for Steiner as far as his loyalty to the Queen. It's really, his world is about to be turned upside down. And you're right, it's been slowly building up to this point where all the way back from Southgate, still hating on Tantalus, still hating Baku, and then begrudgingly going along to get the super soft, and then that scene where it's something along the lines of his duty and protecting the princess. So that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, then off you go. You're on the little bug with the Gargan, I guess, and you got a boss fight. Here we go. It stops. You know, they're like, "What's going on?" They hop it down into the tunnel, and I'm gonna butcher this name, man. Ralvurov.
It's like Ravalamungo or something like that. I know exactly what you mean because I could never say it, but it's like Ravalamugo or.
Well, it's yeah, no, it's Ral, it's Ralvurov. I think it's that Ralvurov. I don't know. Regardless, there's
Whatever.
an HVA at the end, so Ralvurov. Pretty lackluster boss, man. First off, the steals. Well, you can steal a bone wrist, which you were literally just able to buy. It's good. It's an upgrade, but you could just buy them. But what's the big
Like
one?
300 gil. You can get a mithril fork, which is pretty awesome, but I don't know if I've ever had that much luck getting that one. I'm not sure what the rate,
Oh man.
how hard it is to steal, but that's a pretty decent one.
Here I come with my lording over. Literally, first two steals, bone wrist, then mithril fork.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh man, you've been getting lucky in this playthrough. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's
don't
just some
know.
of the times when you rattle off the percentage chances. I'm just like, whoa, really? Like I got lucky.
Next thing you're gonna tell me that you stole the mithril sword from Beatrix back in Bernicia.
Yeah, I didn't want to rub it in at the time, but I
Yeah,
actually stole two of them. I don't know how it happened, but no. But regardless, those are the only two items that it has. Do you know what Devil's Kiss does? What does Devil Kiss
I
do?
do. Inflicts poison. So
Like,
you might have had
A tenth of the
antibody?
time?
Maybe.
I mean,
don't
it
know,
just
I know
never
that's what
afflicted it.
does. Like, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know if it's probably not 100% then.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Does it even do damage, or is it?
It
just
does like
poison?
5 to 8 damage, is what I was encountering. So that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, so it'd come in an attack, and dude, I mean, it was about along with crawler enemies. You know, I mean, it was doing about 140-ish, so nothing crazy. And then it would do Devil's Kiss, and it kept doing it. And I'm like, okay, clearly this has to be doing something. It's a named attack, but I'm like, nothing's happening. And I didn't have antibody on, you know, so it didn't say immune or anything like that. It just never applied it.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an annoying one. And then I think he has, if I remember correctly, is this the one that has the string attack? That
It
does
is.
slow?
So, okay, that's the one. It will slow. So, yep. It was used on Garnet, but it wasn't really a big deal because Steiner just went to town on it. I didn't attack with Steiner at all until I had all the saves. And as soon as Marcus said, has nothing to steal, boom, I unleashed Steiner in his blood sword. And then, he attacked a couple times, then he got a counterattack in, and then he attacked one more time, and that was that. So I think its health is probably around like maybe 2,500 to 3,000. I mean, it was just super easy. Super easy. And of course, it would have been easy even without the blood sword,
Yeah. It is a pretty easy boss.
I don't think it was the point to give you a super hard boss right now anyways. So, that said, we have a little bit more to get to. But before we do that, let's do seed trivia. So Alex is on his rank 11 test. I think he's on like a 4 or 5 test win spree right now. Let's see if he can keep that going.
Fire!
Yeah, you're on fire! Alright, man. Starting it out on Final Fantasy 13. The Up in Arms shop is the first one available.
False.
Final Fantasy 12. The Euratan Exile will show up in, I guess, Ogir Yensa. I can't remember how to say that one. Ogir Yensa Sansi. There we go. After killing 100 Euratan enemies.
True.
Moving on, Final Fantasy X-2. Barkeep plays a key role in getting a 100% playthrough.
Oh yeah, that is true. I'm playing through that right now, and that's a good one though.
Alright, Final Fantasy X. You must complete the butterfly hunt in under 45 seconds to get the prize.
25 seconds. Oh man. I'm gonna say false on that. I think it might be 60 seconds.
Final Fantasy IX. Flutes are considered ranged weapons.
That's false.
Final Fantasy VIII. I'm gonna need you to really concentrate on this one, alright? Squall accidentally left the dryer in high heat And that's why his jacket is so small.
I was always wondering why that happened. I mean, seriously, does this guy not know how to do his laundry? True.
Alright, finishing up Final Fantasy VII. Red's level 3 limit breaks are Howling Moon and Earth Rave.
That's true.
Alright, let's recap, man. Final Fantasy 13 Up in Arms. Well, it is very early, but it is not the first. So you got it correct. It's not the first one. Unicorn Shop is, because, you know, what other shop would be the first one in Final Fantasy 13? Of course, it'd be the Unicorn Shop.
Right.
Final Fantasy 12. So in case no one did know this, there is a rare spawn, and his name is the Uritan Exile, and he will only show up by killing 100 Uritan enemies in that zone. So, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get a chain, I think, right?
No, well, so you don't have to actually get a chain, but you do have to kill 100 of them. So a chain helps, you know, because obviously that helps you kind of keep track of what you're at. But it's crazy. And then you kill him, and it's like that one... He sucks, you know, like, I mean, he's super easy, he doesn't drop anything good, it's just for fun, I guess.
Just kind of sidetracking, but he can drop, like, a katana or something like that that's pretty good at that point, but...
Okay.
The drop rate is so low that, yeah, I don't think you can really rely on it.
Yeah, and the process to get him is so long.
Exactly. It's like a kotetsu or something.
Gotcha. We'll go to the next question. Final Fantasy X-2 Barkeep. He is, you guessed it, the barkeep on the airship, and he does play a key role. He plays a very key role. In fact, you have to rest at his inn every single chapter. Please don't forget. It's the first thing you do every single time you get to the new chapter. And if you do it in all 5 chapters, well, brother will go have a very in-depth conversation with him, a heart-to-heart, if you will, about his, let's just say infatuation with Yuna, I guess. Let's just say that. That's a good word. But yes.
It's funny, I forgot about that scene.
Why would you want to remember that scene? Anyways, Final Fantasy X. You got it correct, but, so... This one was a little, I was gonna kind of, you know, be maybe lenient on it, because some of these timed ones are a little hard to get, because it is false, but it's actually, you only get 30 seconds, is all you get.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't done that in a while.
I've not done that one in a long time. I mean, I usually don't do that one in my playthroughs, you know, I just kind of leave it for never. Alright, Final Fantasy IX. Flutes are not considered ranged weapons, so you got that right. But why aren't flutes considered ranged weapons? She's literally blowing music. Or does she actually go and hit them? I can't remember.
I don't know. Well, yeah, no, okay, so Aiko, she actually, like, runs up and does, like, a little
smacks him
somersault.
with the flute.
Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with a flute.
Yeah, see, that's what... It's not like a Pied Piper type of deal.
I don't get it. When you get into these attacks, they don't really make any sense, because she doesn't even need a flute. She can just go and do the somersault, like, 60 damage anyways. But
no, you have to have the flute to do it. It enables her. It gives her tumbling abilities, is what it does. Alright, Final Fantasy VIII. Well, Squall, yes, he sucks at laundry. He didn't use enough Tide, and he then put it in the dryer, left it on high heat, and that's what shrunk. I mean, clearly that's the only explanation. Why is this dude wearing a jacket that doesn't even go down halfway his torso?
It's just this Final Fantasy fashion that doesn't make any sense.
Correct. Meanwhile, his sleeves are normal length. But anyways, Final Fantasy VII, Red's level 3 limit breaks are Howling Moon and Earth Rave. So, man, you clean sweeped it again. You got the rank 11 test. You're rolling.
Hey, no, sometimes you just know them.
That's true. That's true. And I'm trying my best to just gloss over the very obscure ones that I don't think anyone's going to know. But...
Well, I mean, because it was like a while ago, I remember you had some questions on where, you know, I was failing it. Pretty often you ask questions about like paradigm names and stuff like that for Final Fantasy 13. Those are incredibly difficult, so you know we'll find our balance.
Yeah, we will. We will. Good job. Rank 11 in the bag. And let's go ahead and switch back to 9 to finish up what we have left. So there's actually only a little bit left that we're going to talk about here, because once we kind of get through this next bit, the shift focuses back onto Zidane and company, and, you know, you kind of are there again for a while. We're kind of going back and forth. But before it shifts, we get to Alexandria. So, you know, everyone's there. Of course, it's just Marcus, Steiner and Dagger, and everyone's super excited. They made it. They're in Alexandria, but it looks a little different, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of end up in this. Well, you're in kind of like the Gargan Rue area, which you've never seen before. No, you've got Dagger, Steiner, and Marcus all running up, and they're trying to get there as quickly as they can. And she stops, and she's just like, "Wait a minute, Dr. Tot told me something about this place. Like it was built, help defend the castle."
Yeah.
And then Steiner's just like, "Oh, we don't have time for that, but should have listened."
Should have listened, yeah, because, I mean, you nailed it. She's like, my ancestors, Dr. Todd told me about my ancestors, made this place to stop invasions or something like that. And she was about to explain more and talk about more because she's like, wait, hold on. Darn Rusty, man. Princess, no time for stories. And then,
It's
boom.
not just a story.
Yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
story. Boom, that gate goes up. And then kind of actually tying into what you just said, man, about the progression, before we went to see trivia, that is, about the progression with Steiner and how he still, first thing, he turns to Marcus, you did this!
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's like, dude, calm down, man. He wants to go just as badly as you do to Alexandria. He's got to save his bro, okay? And it's always funny how much time is always spent in these dialogues. Now, obviously, it's an infinite amount of time if you don't, press A or X or whatever. But can you just imagine them sitting down there? Zorn. So, okay, let me spoil it. Zorn and Thorn come out after they trap them both sides with the gate. Front
Is
one
that
went
thing
up.
where they had a minute to escape, and that's exactly what Marcus says. Because the very first thing, the first gate goes up, barring their the way up to the castle,
Right.
so they can head back the way that they came. And of course, they're just standing there. And then the second gate comes up, and they're locked in this little. They're locked in on all sides pretty much.
Yep, on all sides. And then of course Zorn and Thorn come out and they say that the elephant lady had them arrested. If anyone noticed, of course you probably do. I like calling them the nicknames that they are given by other characters in the game, such as Rusty. So Braun is Elephant Lady, in which Kuja named her so nicely in the auction house back in Trino. She ordered for their arrest, Dagger included, and still you got this whole just absolute Steiner's just like, you're lying, like, no way, the queen would never do
Lies.
this.
Yeah, lies.
Yeah, lies.
Always like that. And he's doing the jump up and down thing with his fists. Like,
Yep.
He's
Ching,
always just
ching,
so
ching,
angry.
ching. Yep. And so, but at that point, I mean, Dagger's like, take me to the queen, and that's what Zorn Thorn are going to do anyways, whether you like it or not. It's like, well, that's what she wants.
Up until this point, we haven't really had a definitive conclusion on what the Black Waltzes were all about, right?
True.
And it was up until this point where Dagger and Steiner were kind of naive to the fact that all of that was to try and capture her and take her back. I mean, they kind of knew, but they didn't know who was behind the Black Waltzes, all of that kind of stuff. And now, after Zorn and Thorn said that, you still got Steiner in denial, going lies. You've got Dagger, who still thinks that she even has a say in the situation.
Yeah.
They're all kind of flabbergasted when it turns out that Zorn and Thorn are just like, oh, you're going to go see her whether you like it or not. So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting part in the story where you finally realize that Ingbrand does not care. She just wants Dagger for something, and she'd been trying to capture her.
Yep, trying to get her back. Which we kind of maybe know one thing is way back, when Beatrice is talking to Braun right after the ship escapes. Beatrice says, and she has the pendant. So
That's right.
That's all we know, but that's such a small detail. You may have forgotten this. Well, so what was the pendant? Maybe that's why she wants her back, so on and so forth. Anyways, we are now to Zidane and company. Here they are. It basically picks up right where we left off. They just got their butt whooped by the before mentioned Beatrice. And they're recovering. Yeah, they can go, can you stand up? Yes. And they're like, okay, we need to go to Clara. Essentially, that's where you're at. You basically it puts you in the open world. I, of course, because I missed it, went back and got cancer. You can go back. I did not go any further in, but I'm assuming you could pretty much go back and do absolutely anything that's there. You might not be able to go all the way. I didn't try. That might be something interesting to go see, like what all you can do is Stiltskin's still there, and all that stuff. But You can backtrack in at least a little bit to get the cancer if you missed it. Really, at this point, it's just, man, you should have a ton of new items from the synthesis shop in Trino. If you did get that mithril fork for Kina, I mean, it's a huge upgrade. I think her attack went from like maybe 34 something to 42. You know, regardless, it jumps to 42, which that's just insane. You know, and so pretty big upgrade there. Of course, again, you have all the synthesis. You should have a plethora of accessories now, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, and that's actually something that we kind of forgot to mention, or we might have briefly mentioned it, but you're back at Trino. There's a whole bunch of items there that you're going to want to get extra of so that you can have some more for Zidane, Evie, Freya, and Kina.
Right.
'Cause at this point, you've got the bone wrists, you've got chainmail,
Bandana.
you've got all of those. Yeah, bandana is a really big one to learn Insomniac and stuff like that. And you've got all of that new synthesis stuff because, of course, Arnesia, you just have the Moogle selling the same old stuff. So
Yeah.
there really is no opportunity to go back to Trino or any shop for that matter to get that stuff again.
That's right. And so if you already did, then sorry. But but yeah, no. Just buy a couple extras, what it is, and yeah, make sure you check out that synthesis shop entry. You know, there's some really good accessories. Other than that, that is where we're gonna end it. We will pick up with Clara in the next episode because that's another doozy there. I mean, it's kind of hard to fit some of these single area, you know, places into one episode because there's just so much that happens. But that's what we're gonna do again. So, you know, be prepared. But regardless, as always, we thank you all for hanging out with us, for listening, for supporting us. We really do appreciate it. You know, this wouldn't be possible if we weren't getting support and listens, and so we thank you all for that. And I'm Mark.
I'm Alex.
And this is Final Stop for Final Fantasy Talks.